All right, so here is your very short introductory video just to give you a little background info before we get into the classroom and actually do some work with dissection so you know kind of what to expect on the day. So first thing, equipment. These are all pieces of equipment we have in the classroom. They're not things you need to bring. The first one is a dissecting apron. It's water resistant, meaning that chemicals that get on it, anything that might have frog remains get on it, are not going to get on your clothes. So that's really why you have the apron on, to protect your clothes. The second thing that you have to wear at all times while working with the specimen are gloves. These are nitrile gloves. They're what we have in the classroom. They're not latex. You have to wear these at all times. And also you'll notice here that they have the sort of edges of the gloves rolled all the way down to cover their wrist. You want to make sure when you're putting your gloves on, you do this as well. Choose gloves that are the right size for you. We do not have an unlimited supply of gloves, so make sure you're not poking holes in them. You're being sort of using them the way they're meant to be used. And then the last thing that we have in the classroom for you are goggles. So you'll notice these are chemistry goggles, so they don't have any holes. So if you were to get any chemicals or anything, which if we're handling appropriately, we should not. But if you were to get anything splashed, it wouldn't get up into your eyes because there are no holes for things to get in there. So here we have a picture of a properly dressed student getting ready to do his frog dissection. So if we look, he's got his apron on, check. He's got his gloves on, check. And he's got his goggles on. Now notice, they're not on top of his head like a fashionable biology headband. They are on his eyes, protecting them. So remember, you have to wear them over your eyes at all times. Now, things you need to bring on that day. So the first thing you need to bring is you have to be wearing closed-toed shoes. I know it's getting close to sort of warm weather and everybody wants to wear flip-flops and sandals. But when we do dissection, there's a chance that things could sort of drop off the table. We're going to be working with not only chemicals, but also sharp pieces of equipment. And you don't want something like a sharp pair of scissors or a pin to fall off the table, which it shouldn't be, but if it does, to fall off the table and hit your toe if you're wearing flip-flops. So that's why you always wear closed-toed shoes. The second thing for the ladies with long hair, or in general, you're going to want to bring a hair tie because you do not want your hair getting in any of the frog specimen as well. And then the last thing, just as a general good piece of advice, don't wear your favorite outfit. So you'll have aprons on, so nothing terrible is going to happen to your clothes, but still, just better to be safe than sorry. Wear something that's not, you can't live without clothing. So here's an overview of the major pieces of equipment we're going to be using. So the first one, these are scissors. You'll notice that they're all stainless steel, which makes them easier to clean. They're not going to absorb because they're not porous. So these are going to be used for cutting. You're going to use them mostly for cutting skin and also cartilage as well. We won't be using a scalpel because you're not really going to be doing too much work with tissues, which is what you would use a scalpel for. So they're really not necessary for frog dissection. The second thing that you're going to have as a tool to work with are pins. So you'll notice it's got a wooden handle. These are very similar to what we have in the classroom. And it's got a metal spike. This will be good for referencing. So if you want to locate, so point out maybe the liver or something, instead of doing it with your fingers, because you're going to have multiple people working on the same frog, you're going to use your pin to do it to sort of reference things. You can also use this for sort of moving tissue out of the way. It's sort of a good tool. Another good all-around tool for you are your forceps. So forceps are very similar to tweezers. They're used pretty much the same way. So if you need to grasp or pull on anything, you have your forceps for doing that. Each group will have a full set of equipment to work with. I do want to see you using this language if you need to have a piece of equipment handed to you. In general, lab rules. So the first one is respect the organism. So this is a great educational opportunity for you guys, but at the same time, I want you to realize while you're working that you are working with an organism that was once living. So while you're working with this, you need to be very respectful. And I don't want to see anyone joking around or doing anything that I would sort of even be dreaming of that would be disrespectful towards this organism that's given its life so you could have this great opportunity. The second thing, follow all instructions. So these are both verbal and written directions. So I'm going to give verbal directions at times, but then also you guys are going to have a paper lab that you'll be working through. It is your responsibility at your station that you are reading those directions and following them. Third one, avoid unnecessary contact with chemicals. So try not to get, it's formaldehyde pretty much that's used to preserve the frog. So you don't want to get that on your skin. If you do get it on your skin, it's not terrible, but you just want to make sure you wash it off. So just avoid any unnecessary contact. You'll have gloves on, you'll have an apron on. There's really no reason you should be coming into close contact with it. Next one, keep fingers safe. So this means that when you're cutting, that you are cutting away from yourself and away from your fingers. when you're working groups, you have to be very aware of where other people are, where their fingers are, where their bodies are. You're in a group. So this is the way that people get hurt, when people stop being considerate and being knowledgeable about where another person is compared to their physical space. So you want to cut away from people's fingers and from yourself when using the scissors. And then the other thing is you want to make sure you're using the pin when referencing and sort of pointing at materials in there. Because if you put your fingers in there and someone else is trying to cut or do something else, you've got too many people working on the frog at once. It's a recipe for a disaster. And number 5, you're going to clean your area and wash your hands when finished. So everything will get wiped down. It'll get sanitized afterwards. You're going to wash your hands. Even though you're wearing gloves, you still want to make sure you wash your hands afterwards. All right. So you are ready.